And it's my pleasure to be in Odesa once more, interviewing Rostyslav Semkiv. He is a literary critic. He's one of the leading literary experts in Ukraine. And we're going to be talking about literature, identity, canons of literature, and of course, as we inevitably do, we're going to touch on Russia and the weaponization of literature, as well as the formation of Ukrainian identity. Because I don't have my laptop, my script in front of me, I'm going to ask Rostyslav to give a slightly more detailed introduction to himself and his work.
Okay, so I am Rostyslav Semkiv, and I'm a professor, associate professor at Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. That is one of our most respectable universities in Ukraine, in Kyiv. And so I teach literature since in the university since 2001, so for already 24 years. And besides, I'm a director of Smoloskyp Publishing House. It's not a big publishing house, and but we produce books, mainly memoirs from previous times in Ukrainian history, and so that's almost all the 20th century. So the history is quite complicated here in Ukraine, and it has been so for a long time. So we try to find these memoirs and reproduce the true visions of different episodes, such as the 20th and Holodomor and the 60s. So the periods, Second World War is the periods of these historical disturbances. That's it, and I also write some books to popularize Ukrainian literature and literature in general, because it is very important to build the reading culture. For a long time, since the Soviet times, reading was compromised because books were simply not telling truth, and many people had kind of prejudices about the books, especially about history books. They don't believe they are telling giving adequate picture. So since the 20th century, where everything has changed, and Ukraine renewed the independence. That's the great quest, yes, to give the true picture of history, of literary history, of culture, to return many persons, many writers that were neglected or forgotten or repressed, executed. On the other side, there are authors or scientists and painters that were appropriated by Russia, for example, as Grigory Skovoroda, a great philosopher, and they tried to make him Russian philosopher, as Gogol, that is our author, but they almost succeed to persuade everyone that he is Russian writer. Of course, he became Russian writer in his later period, but he started as a Ukrainian writer. So it is very important to give this true picture and to popularize literature. And since the Revolution of Dignity in 2013, we have this constant process of renewing of this self-esteem and self-understanding the whole nation since the last 10 years, perhaps, and especially after the invasion, that became a crucial point for everyone here in Ukraine to rebuild the identity, to find true identity, and to separate our identity from all these false identities like Soviet Единый народ, so general people, the post-Soviet identity, Russian identity. These are identities which are not appropriate just now, and that people try to find the true identities and to rewrite the understanding of the world. So it's a great process, and we have this aim to all people of culture here in Ukraine. We have this aim to find the ways to give this renewed identity to more and more people which were desorientated, because since a very long time Russian propaganda and Soviet propaganda, yes, they were speaking that these are brother nations, and we should support each other. So we united in one empire, and then in Soviet Union. That appeared a myth, a great falsification, because yes, now everyone understands that brothers should not shoot at each other. Yes, so that was just a falsification, and there is a need to make new narratives, or rather to return to those narratives which were repressed and executed before.
It always made me wonder what brothers Russia's talking about. If it's Cain and Abel from the Bible, then maybe it's appropriate, but otherwise it's...
But that's a very big mistake, yes, and that's a crucial tragedy in the Bible already. And that's why... But that's the situation of the difference of propaganda and true events. And each time we see this, each time they just say inappropriate things, just trying to mask these true events. So they killing people, but they tell that they are liberating people, and so on. So it's these points of George Orwell in his 1984 sadly became very important now, because we see that they are just trying to do the same things like in Orwell. Yes, they are trying to persuade everyone that war is peace. They are trying to bring peace, though they are making war. Yes, that freedom is a slavery, and it's a constant Russian propaganda. Constant things for Russian propaganda to say that these all democracies in the West, they really don't have the freedoms of speech and of everything. They are autocratic, they are totalitarian, and Russia is not totalitarian. Russia is true country. It's something like this. So they are always try to falsify the truth, and now we think that's a great victory and a great achievement that more and more people in the world understand this. that they are just lying. It's very important to understand this.
What's really interesting for me is this period, especially in the 90s, where for a short period of time there was at least the possibility for new identities to be explored in Russia. And in fact, in 1990s, as in Ukraine, there was a lot of borrowing from different genres from the past, a lot of experimentation. There was some examination of historical truth amongst some people at least. There were some documentaries that went into that. But it seems to me that at some point, almost certainly in the late 90s and then reinforced in the early 2000s, it was decided that that process was too exhausting, too tiring, too difficult and strenuous. And actually it's much better to forget and maybe lapse into pre-packaged identities or revert to a composite of identities, whether it be Soviet or so on in Russia. But in Ukraine, that process of experimentation, of exploring pain and trauma, is it your impression that that continued in Ukraine and actually it's a crucial part of the democratic process and resilience, that let's say, painful dialogue with the past continues to happen?
Yes, it's quite complicated to have this dialogue with the past, especially if your nation or its leaders are responsible for crimes. And it is very symptomatic that now they closed or narrowed the possibilities in Russia for this memorial organization, the organization that tried to tried to find out and tell about these crimes from Stalin's time. So they tried to speak about repressions, about these executions, mass executions, about Gulag. So memorial organization in Russia and in Ukraine and in every post-Soviet countries, they were trying to find out the truth about the scale of all these crimes. But now in Russia they almost forbid the actions of this organization, Memorial, and it's very symptomatic because they just don't want to know the truth. It seems to them more productive to speak about Stalin, not about as a big killer of the time, but as a good manager, good leader that led the country to the victory in the Second World War. We understand that it is very exaggerated and it's not simply true. And in Ukraine, yes, we still constantly try to return those names which were forgotten, those people which were executed. We had the day, very tragic day for Ukrainian literature. For example, the 3rd of November in 1937. In Sandarmokh, it's in Karelia, in the north of Russia. So they executed in one day, they executed almost 200 poets, writers and people of culture in one day, and it's a great tragedy because really great writers were killed there. And of course, it stopped the literature, the creative process for a long time. And so, yes, that's a crime. And as Nazists, they were made guilty, yes, for their crimes. The same Soviet regime should be punished, should be named as a crime regime, yes. But instead they are trying to speak that that's not true and it's not important. So yes, at the beginning of the 90th, for perhaps 3 or 4 years, there was a time of short period of Russian democracy. But then I think that's the revenge, yes, of these secret services of KGB, which returned their control and then started to perform according to their own methods as they were used to. And from that time we have all these provocations and all these 2 Chechen wars, and then war in Georgia and Sakartvelo, and then the annexation of Crimea and annexation of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and then this whole-scale invasion. So that's a plan to return the Soviet Union, and of course all historians and all ordinary people, I think, know all over the world that it was a great threat and great danger while Soviet Union existed, because of nuclear danger and other all things, and Soviet Union was aggressive all the time. So all these wars in throughout the world, from the Latin America, from South America and Africa and Asia, so many provocations. The same is just now. Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979, and they were killing people there, and they were controlling Afghanistan till for 10 years till 1989, and now they returned again to these tactics, and of course they have this false dream about the rebuilding of Soviet Union with modern possibilities. And of course it is still a threat for the whole world, so it is definitely so that in the east of Ukraine, in Ukrainian front, it's not just the local conflict, it's a conflict of civilizations or systems. It is definitely the conflict of totalitarianism, because they are already totalitarian, and the democracy. And that's the same question as Greeks in Marathon 500 years before Christ. Yes, this battle near Marathon, when democracy, Greek democracy, tries to oppose, yes, of this Persian totalitarian force, of this danger from the east once again.
And how does that affect the evolution of literature and identity, and even the consumption of literature? Because in speaking to Peter Moborantsev, we focused on modern Russian literature. We talked about the sort of science fiction, the strange kind of science fiction genre of a kind of alternative imperialistic future. But he described Russian literature as basically being an autopsy, that the literary process is dead, literature is a corpse, and whatever life is in it is just sort of poking a corpse, which is, of course, an extreme point of view. How does that compare, and do you accept that analogy, and how does that compare to Ukrainian literature? Is it a much more living, evolving, questioning process?
Well, my opinion is that Ukraine is that literature to develop properly, just like literature. So for this, authors should have freedom to express themselves and to speak on various topics, and to oppose powers, to oppose authorities, to oppose different opinions. So literature is and art in general, it's very free process. Otherwise, yes, it becomes just dead. And so I think that is quite appropriate analogy. And so in Russia, since very long time, since perhaps the beginning, since the 18th century already, it is not so. So to be a dissident writer there means that either you emigrate or you are dead on this or that level. Because yes, many authors, for example in Soviet times, because in the 20th they also have this a bit of freedom, and through the 20s there are many different writers and many different directions, but when Stalin created this Союз писателей, so this the union of writers. Yeah, then every writer should praise the Communist Party, should show these all things which are dictated by the party authorities. And if not so, then there is not he or she, they had no perspective at all. And of course this time it is the same. It is not possible to be a dissident writer in Russia just now. And yes, this fantastic literature, they have this alternative history. That was that is the territory for this imperialistic imagination, and there are writers which since perhaps 10 or 12 years already they are writing things about how these fantasies of how they conquer Ukraine and then Europe and then ruin Washington and so, and also these things that Stalin from the past comes to help them to wage the war with NATO and so on. So they have a big direction, and it is financed, of course, by state, because this helps to raise, to behave the young generation in these ideas we understand, in the imperialistic ideas, and then send them to war, whatever they want. So it's very dangerous, and it's not true literature, of course. It's very artificial. And in Ukraine we don't have this. Yes, of course we have the as we know, democracy can allow everything. That is not trying to ruin the democracy. Yes, that's the one thing that is forbidden. Yes, that all those things that are trying to not oppose, but just to ruin. And the same thing is just now in Ukraine. So if it's literature that is questioning the right of Ukrainian people to live in their state and the whole existence of Ukrainians, because they have this literature, then it is banned. And so we already perhaps 10 years we have this so these books from Russia that are trying to speak about that Ukrainians don't exist, they are forbidden, of course. But in but here we have the Here we have very different types of literature, and it is possible to say everything anyone wants. For me, because I research humor in literature, in Ukrainian literature, but also in other literatures, and for me it is quite that's a mark whether society is free or not. That's a possibility to mock the powers, to mock the authorities. If it is possible to mock the president, the authorities, everyone, then it is free society. And if no one is killed for this or imprisoned for this, you know, this anecdote about about Carter and Brezhnev, American and Soviet presidents. So they meet, and Carter says everyone is free in America to criticize and to go to Washington's main square with a shield. Carter is idiot. And Brezhnev says yes, and there is freedom in Soviet Union because everyone can go to Red Square with a shield. Carter is idiot. So that's the difference. And as we see now, we have these protests about those laws that maybe that are not appropriate. So okay, that's a democratic process, and we have many humoristic things said there about the government, about president, about all of this, and it is tolerated as a proper
and in wartime,
criticism.
which is significant.
Yes, even in more time, though of course if someone is criticizing the aim to compromise the army, the governmental steps to make the defense more appropriate, more strong, than it is other way. We had, but even this is not so strict. So we had one or two stand-up comics which said something inappropriate about the army and so on. They were neglected by everyone. They were cancelled the audience, and no one is going to listen to their jokes anymore. But they were not repressed or something like this. So it is in free country it is possible to laugh, and in totalitarian country it is dangerous to laugh.
And the last theme comes back to, I think, something you mentioned at the start, which is a writer like Gogol, or for the Western audience, Nikolai Gogol, because some people might not know the proper Ukrainian pronunciation of that. In his St. Petersburg Tales, in that period, he clearly adopts, well, there's Ukrainian humor and satire in there, so it's not entirely an imperial literature. He's mocking in a really subversive way Russian imperialism, but he does choose the vessel of the themes of the small man without agency to do it.
Yeah.
That theme, obviously, then, even through distant literature like Moskva Petushki, you still, you're opposing power, but you're still crushed by the system. You're still a small cog in a machine. What are the themes in Ukrainian literature, both, let's say, in Gogol, prior to that, in the Ukrainian tales, and what would you classify as more typical Ukrainian themes, the distinct from these small man themes of Russian literature?
If we speak about Gogol, then it is Taras Bulba. Taras Bulba is defeated, but is not crushed. So he is, and his elder son Ostap also the same. So these are people that are fighting for their freedom, and they are not taking this defeat. So they are trying till the very end. They are trying to oppose, and that is the most typical, of course, figure in Gogol's literature. And we have the same in Taras Shevchenko's. Yes, of course, there are many victims in Ukrainian literature, because for a long period literature was repressed and the culture was repressed. But there is also a figure of a fighter from Kotlяревsky, Aeneida, and so the Aeneid, as it is in Virgil, yes, it is the tale of the defeat, but then a movement to victory. And it's very symptomatic also for Ukrainian literature, because new Ukrainian literature, we had old literatures in the 18th century, the 11th century till the 18th, and then we have Kotlяревsky and the start of the new Ukrainian literature. And for Kotlяревsky, it is very important to speak in the situation when everything is lost, almost lost, because this Cossack fortress in Dnipro siege is ruined, and all rights from the Ukrainian aristocracy is taken away, and they should many of them became Russian officials, yes. But in this time, then it seemed that there is no perspective for Ukraine, for Ukrainian history, and it should stop. But nevertheless, Kotlяревsky make this figure of Cossacks, figures of Cossacks. They are okay. Troy is ruined, but they are moving forward, and they are trying to rebuild, to make the new state. And that's a powerful metaphor. And in Shevchenko's poetry we have the same Cossacks as defenders, as fighters for freedom. Shevchenko is quite near, or quite similar here, in parallel, for example, with Robert Burns and his urge for Scotland and Scottish history that should also move on. And this figure of Cossack, that is the fighter that would fight for freedom, it is constant in Ukrainian literary history. It returns from time to time, and now we have this, of course, all these things returned, and we have songs, this Kozaki idуть, Cossacks are coming, so they are trying to oppose. And it's very, very old, since thousands of years history, metaphor of our frontier, of our border, of civilized world and uncivilized horde that is trying to go westwards, as Attila or Mongols, Genghis Khan, and so on. So that's very fundamental, and it is quite sad and tragic that from century to century we should do the same thing and be this border, this protecting wall from the anarchy and barbarianism, because it is so, with all the killings and bombing children shelters and so on. It is barbaric, and this barbarianism is also seen in Syria, for example, and in other places. So that's something like a very important topic for Ukrainian, typical topic for Ukrainian literature. Yes, this fight for freedom, and this understanding that we should do this anyway. This time is different because we feel much support from the world. Because the beginning of the 20th century, after the First World War, we hadn't this support, and after Second World War, when Nazis were defeated, but Stalin's system was left in untouched, and now we feel this support and very practical support. And so this time, I guess, and it is being reflected in literature already, that we are much more sure in our future, in our freedom, and in our victory.
And the last sort of question there, to sort of bring that nuance there, whereas these themes seem sort of very distinctly Ukrainian, would you also say that there's a strong commonality with threads of European literature, Renaissance, Enlightenment, and the broad processes of European history? Because it seems to me one of the greatest tricks Russia's been able to pull since Peter the Great is to label itself as European, acquiring certain physical characteristics of European culture while not changing the fundamental foundations.
In one of the books I read about, that's from other field, but it is very vivid. Yes, I read that it is quite easy for, it was quite easy for Western people to visit St. Petersburg, but it was very complicated to move forward from St. Petersburg. And St. Petersburg is something like a shield, okay, very beautiful town, and we are very European, we are very civilized, and but then further deeper into Russia, it is not so, and it is also one again a lie to speak about the civilization, as they say that they are separate civilization, and then make such a horrible things in human things. So it is definitely the same till this time. And in Ukrainian literature, it was always the urge to connect with Europe and to make Ukrainian literature known in the world. And yes, so if we put it this quite simply, then Europe, it's democracy and freedom. Микола Хвильовий, our writer of the 20th century, 20th years of the 20th century, a century ago, so he wrote about psychological Europe we should achieve. Yes, so this European psychology that is associated with scientific search, with humanization, yes, Renaissance project, yes, Enlightenment project, and this is very important for the whole this understanding. It is definitely the course. It is definitely the situation why dignity revolution began, because it was very important for everyone to know that we are moving to the Europe, and as for example Poland joined the European Union, and it was a great in 2005, and it was a great achievement for everyone there. I remember this. And the same for Ukraine, and this association with free democratic world, and not with all of these crimes that they are trying to, and with this Tsar-centered state, when from one person is depends everything. So it is not. There is also saying that in every unclear situation, we should build this siege, this democratic Cossack fortress to protect ourselves and values. Yes, it's about values.
It's been such a pleasure speaking to you here in Odesa, which itself has such an extraordinary history and character, and I think a sense of freedom here. Rostislav, thank you so much for making the time to talk to me today.
Thank you.